Pause twos. Life in a cave. Sounds rugged, right? Primitive. Manly. Pause twos. Wrong. It's just a damp hole with a bad attitude. And Grug was learning that the hard way. Pause threes. Last night, a single drop of water had dripped directly onto his forehead. Drip, drip, drip. For 6 hours. Then a bat landed on his face. Like full-on face hug. Grug slapped himself so hard he saw stars. And the fire? Oh, the fire was supposed to keep him warm. Instead, it filled the cave with so much smoke. Grug coughed up what looked like a tiny ghost version of himself. Sighs. He sat there, shivering, wet, coughing, and glaring at the cave walls as if they'd personally insulted his mother. Pustuetsus. The next morning, Grug crawled out, blinking in the sunlight. He looked back at that miserable hole, and something snapped. He started pacing, muttering. I discovered fire. I invented the wheel. I am clearly a genius. He puffed out his chest so far he nearly fell over backward. Then he stopped, pointed dramatically at a flat, sunny patch of dirt, and made an announcement to absolutely no one. I will build the very first house, a home with no bats, no drips, and perfect smoke exits. The nearby cave people just stared. One of them slowly pulled their child closer. Pause threes. So Grug set off to gather materials. And by materials, I mean the most absurd collection of junk the Stone Age had ever seen. He dragged enormous, unbalanced boulders. He scooped up a pile of twigs so dry they practically sneezed dust. He found a massive flat rock, perfect for something, probably not a roof, and a patch of grass that looked suspiciously itchy. As he hauled this mess, cavemen edged away silently, like they'd seen a mammoth trip. Grug dropped a boulder on his foot, yelped, hopped around, and waved his hands like, I meant to do that. It was not part of the process. So, with a pile of rocks and a dream, Grug got to work. He stacked the boulders right on the grass. No digging, no mud, just a nice, round base. The moment he placed the third rock, the whole thing wobbled, like it was laughing at him. Grug tilted his head. He leaned on the wall to test it. The wall leaned back. He pushed harder. It pushed harder. He punched it. It punched him right back. Every single rock tumbled onto his head. He crawled out, dusty and offended. Sighs. Obviously, the problem was not enough rocks in a straight line. So he built a second wall. It fell sideways even faster. Then, he had a genius idea. He tied the two remaining walls together with a vine, like a hug. The walls leaned toward each other, kissed in the middle, and crumpled into a pile of rubble. It looked like a sloppy accordion that had given up on music entirely. Grug stared at the pile, nodded slowly, and decided that was a foundation. Now came the roof. He hauled that massive flat rock, the one that had looked so promising, and dropped it on top of the two walls that were still sort of standing. The walls groaned. A little dust fell. Grug stood back and admired his creation. It was boxy. It was solid. It was basically a stone cube with no door and no windows. Perfect. He built a fire inside, for warmth, for light, for that cozy home feeling. Smoke immediately filled the space. The rock roof trapped every puff. Grug coughed dramatically, waving his arms like he was fighting a ghost. His eyes watered. He stumbled around, bumped into a wall, and realized he had invented the world's first gas chamber. But Grug was a problem solver. He climbed on top of the roof, don't ask how, and punched a hole through it with his own head. There was a crack, a thud, and then a head-shaped opening appeared. Smoke poured out. Grug grinned through the hole, his face black with soot. Success. Then it started to rain. Water funneled straight through that lovely new skylight directly onto the fire. The fire hissed and died. Darkness fell. Grug sat in the wet, smoky silence, blinking raindrops off his nose. Pause. Twos. Now, a home needs a door. Grug knew this from his cave days. A door keeps out bats, bears, and the judgmental stares of other cavemen. So he found a huge slab of stone, bigger than the walls, heavier than the roof, and wedged it into the entrance. It fit perfectly, tight, immovable. He stepped back to admire it from inside. Then he tried to leave. He pushed. Nothing. He pulled. Nothing. He head-butted the slab. The slab did not care. Grug was sealed inside his own invention. He paced. He grunted. He tried to dig under the wall, but the boulders just laughed at him. Softly. They were still laughing, actually. He could hear them. Finally, Grug squeezed himself through the smoke hole. It was a tight fit. His face scraped against the rough stone. His legs kicked wildly in the air. He popped out like a cork, tumbled down the roof, and landed in a muddy heap outside. He lay there, staring at the sky, wondering if houses were a mistake. But Grug's spirit was unbreakable, or at least very stubborn. The house still needed one more thing: a bed. The cave floor had been cold and lumpy. His new house floor was also cold and lumpy. That would not do. So Grug gathered his itchy grass, his sneezy twigs, and a few flat rocks he'd broken with his face earlier. He arranged them into a shape that loosely resembled a sleeping spot. Then he lay down. Immediately, a twig poked him in the back. Not a gentle poke, a personal, aggressive poke. He shifted. 3 more twigs took revenge. The grass made his skin crawl. He scratched. He squirmed. He rolled over and the flat rocks shifted, clacking together like angry teeth. His spine made a sound that no spine should make. Whispers. Probably nothing permanent. Grug got up, looked at the bed, and decided it was fine. It was a bed. It was his. He had built it with his own hands and his own poor decisions. The house had walls that barely stood, a roof with a head hole, a door that trapped you inside, and a bed that attacked you in your sleep. But it was standing. Barely. He walked outside to admire the whole thing. The little crooked hut leaned ever so slightly to the left. A vine dangled sadly. Smoke still drifted from the head hole. It looked like a confused animal that wasn't sure if it was alive. Grug puffed his chest. He raised a fist to the sky. The house creaked. A small rock fell off the top. He ignored it. Grug puffed his chest even bigger. He raised both fists this time. He took a deep breath, ready to announce his greatness to the entire prehistoric world. Pause, twos. And that's when the house leaned a little more. Just a tiny bit. A gentle tilt, like it was stretching after a nap. Grug's smile froze. He slowly turned his head. The hut groaned. A long, sad, creaky groan. The kind of sound a tree makes right before it decides to lie down forever. The vine holding the walls together snapped. Pop. One wall sagged outward. The roof slid sideways. The door, that heavy stone slab Grug was so proud of, tipped over and flattened his bed of back pain. Which, honestly, was probably an improvement. Grug started running in circles. He pushed on one wall. The opposite wall fell. He ran to that side and pushed. The other wall crumbled. He tried to hold up the roof with both hands, standing in the middle like a confused pillar. The roof cracked right down the center. 2 pieces. One fell left. One fell right. Grug stood there, arms still up, holding nothing but air and regret. The fireplace rocks scattered. The grass mat blew away. The entire house, the first house in history, collapsed into a pile of boulders, twigs, dust, and one very itchy patch of grass. Silence. Pause, threes. Grug stood in the middle of the rubble, covered in dirt, one eye twitching. A small pebble bounced off his head. He looked at the pile. He looked at the distant background cavemen, who had stopped edging away just to watch. They were absolutely still. One of them tilted their head. Grug blinked. Then he raised a single finger. His eyes lit up. The face of a man who had just redefined reality itself. He pointed at the rubble. He looked at the background cavemen. He shouted with absolute conviction that this was not a collapsed house. This was the first open-concept floor plan. No walls to fall down. No roof to trap smoke. Maximum airflow. Nature integrated. Very advanced. He put his hands on his hips. He nodded proudly. The pile of rocks behind him settled slightly, sending up a little puff of dust. Grug declared his house a success. A triumph of thinking. The dawn of a new era. He called it Civilization. Pause twos. One of the background cavemen looked at the pile, looked at their own perfectly functional cave, and slowly, very slowly, walked back inside. Grug didn't notice. He was too busy strutting around the rubble, kicking rocks back into place, already planning his next genius idea. Something about making the house float. Or maybe giving it legs. The sun set over the first open-concept floor plan in history. A crooked little pile of rocks, with one vine still fluttering in the breeze. And Grug, sitting on a flat stone, coughing slightly from residual dust, smiled the smile of a man who had absolutely no idea what went wrong.